É isso, Rodrigo. Estamos já online, ao vivo. Bom dia, Rodrigo. Tudo bem?
Bom dia, Diego. Tudo ótimo. E você, cara? Como tá?
Eu estou bem, graças a Deus. É isso aí. Pessoal, bem-vindo para mais um episódio de Identidade. Como de costume, às sextas-feiras, às 10 da manhã, no horário que a gente conseguiu aqui acomodar dentre todas as tarefas que a gente tem. O episódio de hoje é chamado Building the Identity Framework for the AI Era. Vocês perceberam que o nome está em inglês, né, Rodrigo? A gente tem um convidado especial aqui, e esse nome está em inglês justamente porque o nosso convidado fala inglês, mas aí, Rodrigo, a gente vai fazer a parte em inglês, vocês podem habilitar a tradução no rodapé. Fica no rodapé, né, Rodrigo? A tradução
Fica no
aqui do
rodapé. Não é tradução, na verdade, é o closed caption, né? Ele
closed caption.
mostra em inglês, tipo a legenda direto em inglês, o que facilita o entendimento. Isso aí.
É verdade, é verdade. Então é isso. Rodrigo, preparado para mais um final de semana que está batendo a porta?
Preparado, né? Semaninha puxada, né? Com muitas mudanças de organização aqui. Sim, aguardando. Pelo que tá frio, né? O inverno tá durando muito esse ano.
Sim, sim. E tá um frio silencioso. Eu brinco que é mais perigoso do que aquele frio que vem, tá, chacoalha as janelas, né? Fica aquele frio. Tá, aqui, pelo menos na minha cidade, tá um sol para iluminar a cidade, mas quando coloca a cara para fora da porta, que é
Aquele
um
gelo.
tapa. Exatamente.
Sei
Bom,
qual é.
antes da gente começar, a gente tem os nossos anúncios tradicionais, né? O primeiro é que a gente está também no YouTube. Então, se você prefere assistir esse episódio na sequência no YouTube, baixar no YouTube, na academia, andando na esteira, enfim, fazendo qualquer outra coisa que não seja ao vivo com a gente, YouTube é uma opção. Então, vou colocar aqui a opção do canal do YouTube para vocês acompanharem. A segunda alternativa de acompanhar o que está acontecendo com a Identidade é através do canal do WhatsApp. Ali a gente compartilha anúncios dos episódios que estão sendo preparados, dos materiais que a gente vem trabalhando e anunciando para todo mundo, né? Entre outros pontos, como vagas também, né, Rodrigo? Que a gente acaba anunciando lá também.
Isso.
E temos também o Spotify agora como mais uma opção de player para poder escutar os episódios que a gente trabalha com tanto carinho aqui. Não parece, mas dá bastante trabalho manter os 3 canais, além dessa live. O que você acha, Rodrigo?
Não, é tranquilo, né? Assim, é mais trabalhoso que difícil. Mas o que eu peço pro pessoal comentem, gente. Comenta aqui no LinkedIn, comenta no Spotify se você ouvir, adiciona a gente no Spotify, no YouTube. A gente olha e isso ajuda a gente a guiar, né, Diego, as pautas, os temas que são importantes. Então surgiram temas aí, que é bem legal.
Exatamente. E hoje nós temos a honra de receber um convidado que dispensa apresentações, mas a gente vai fazer a apresentação mesmo assim, porque apesar dele ser muito conhecido no meio de identidade, algumas pessoas ainda não conhecem. Ele vai se apresentar aqui, vai conversar com a gente, falar um pouco de futebol, mas nosso convidado é o Simon Moffatt. Ele é founder e research analyst da The Cyber Hut. Ele é autor, inclusive, de um livro chamado IAM 2035, um guia futuro para segurança de identidade, tá? Ele esteve aqui no Brasil recentemente, participando de eventos, mas ele participa de vários eventos internacionais. Ele teve recentemente agora na Identiverse. E ele tem aí uma larga carreira de 25 anos ajudando empresas, fabricantes, investidores a compreender esse mercado de identidade. Tá? Então, a gente está muito feliz em ter ele aqui. Então, sem mais delongas, vamos adicionar o Simon, mas eu sempre tenho aqui aquela aqui, ok. Então, vamos adicionar o Simon e combinar com... Welcome, Simon.
Hi guys, how are we doing?
Doing great, sir. Doing great. Let's start about this football part. before we start this episode, we were talking about the soccer, football, actually, because between England and the UK, in Brazil, we can talk about it, football and not soccer, right?
Yeah.
It's a massive passion for all of us, I guess, isn't it? So
Yes.
I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan.
Exactly. Just a little bit about Simon. Who is Simon? Beside the techy, daily routine, geeky researches. Who is Simon on daily routine?
Well, hi everybody. Glad to be here chatting. Hopefully about some geeky identity topics. But yes, I do have other hobbies and passions. Based out of the UK in England, so of course, bad weather and football are two of our favourite topics. So I'm thoroughly enjoying the World Cup so far. I appreciate that may not be the case for all of our audience members, but I like football. I have a little bit of free time when not being a dad to my two children and my two cats and the like. But I do like to read a book, watch some football, and the simple pleasures in life. Really, ironically, anything away from technology and all of this fancy AI stuff that we have to do. I quite like a very simple life, actually.
Yeah, same here. Like when I'm not at work, I try to get away as much as possible from any text related stuff because it's already too much during the daily day. And Simon, I want to talk a little bit about what is your daily routine on the Cyber Hut. How is the life as an independent consultant where you're helping organizations to define strategy, to evaluate the environment? So how is that?
Do you know, I've been in identity quite a long time. You mentioned 25 years, and today I think being an analyst, it's quite a luxury job in the sense of I sort of get to observe things, track patterns. I interview software vendors and providers to understand how they are designing their technology, how they're building things. So I feel it's much more. I guess it's more intellectual, if you like, sort of analyzing and looking at patterns, trying to identify where things may be heading to. And then a lot of my time is then trying to educate, enable, writing reports, blogs, just trying to, I guess, get as many people involved into the identity and access management world as possible. And it's that there are so many new technologies, so many acronyms, so many concepts related to identity. So I spend a lot of time reading and analyzing, and then hopefully trying to educate the community as well, and helping with maturity guides and reports and the like. So I feel it's quite a privileged job. I feel these days it's less stressful than working for software companies and building things and that sort of stuff, which I did for
I totally agree with you that it is important job actually to be analyst nowadays with so many things going under identity bridge, right? And also one thing that you have been done in an excellent way is to publish many different articles, researches. That, by the way, I just put the banner right now under our names. You have been publishing research related to indicators, about best practices. Tell me a little bit more about it. How hard is to be in a position? Okay, the marketing, everyone's looking to connect all the identity pieces in the same time. Everyone's being flooded with so many information right now. How looks like it should be in a position? Okay, I don't need it to be in that rushy position. Let's put it this way, but I will try to guide the guys, the folks, the field, to better understand all these crazy, announcements in terms of visibility, connectivity, anti-fraud? How is the position to be in a position, okay, I will not be the one with my hands on, but I will help someone that will be driving that technology?
It's a very good question, actually. And I think, especially the last, say, 5-8 years, where AI has entered the landscape, I think we have too much information almost. We have blogs, we have data, we have searches, we have all of this information at our fingertips. But I think it's quite difficult to find some of the wisdom and some of the knowledge there. And it's I think if you are a practitioner or an architect or an engineer building something, it can be very confusing to understand the trends. Do you trust the vendor? Do you trust the integrator? It's very hard to get a balance of what's happening. I think I try as an analyst to be, obviously as an analyst you are independent, so I have that ability to look and interview and look across the landscape. And I think it is about simplifying things, because what we do can be quite complicated. We have acronyms, we have OAuth2 and FIDO and passkeys and all of these different terminologies which are complicated. So keeping things simple, but I think as well, just trying not to be just try to provide a bit of guidance, a bit of an opinion, a bit of a direction to things, instead of having too much information all at once. I think it can be much easier to keep things very simple. And I'm actually working on something currently, just looking at sort of reference architectures around how to integrate humans and non-humans, and not trying to do everything all at once, but just maybe look at the top 6 problems or the top 10 and keep it simple. I think trying to keep things as easy to understand as possible, because the simpler you make things, the more people you can have in the conversation. I think as soon as you become too technical and too complicated, the audience becomes very, very small. And I try and make it simple, I guess, to try and make it as accessible as possible.
And it's also hard to maintain, right? Because one common mistake that I see, and I don't know if you agree, I would ask, do you agree, that companies have this tendency of overcomplicating and over-architecturing. So they're always trying to be more secure, and they end up creating a very complex environment where it doesn't provide additional security. It's just more complex to maintain.
So common. Yeah. It is. So the real sort of paradigm I use, if you're spending so much time talking about the solution and architecting and re-architecting and adding, and you probably haven't understood the problem well enough. Because if you spend a lot of time understanding the problem, so working with the CISO or the architect or the end user, and really trying to understand what's the real issue we're trying to fix. Is it security, usability? Is it revenue? Is it sign up registration problems? If you can really articulate the problem in 1 or 2 sentences, the answer becomes really, really clear. It's really simple then. You don't have to overcomplicate. I think it's so common. I get pulled into workshops where it's like they're arguing about the architecture or the solution, and let's just take a step back, get onto the whiteboard. What are the real 1 or 2 core problems that we need to fix? And actually, once you agree what that looks like, the solutions and the plan actually tends to be quite simple, because we have so much technology available. So yeah, I think it's a lot of the time is just work on what's the real top 2 or 3 problems that you want to try and solve.
Yeah. For years, we have been talking about identity and access management, right? By the way, that's probably what AIM was the first asynchron in the field when we talk about identity. Are we reaching the end of AIM as you know it? If so, what does replace it from your perspective right now?
I think we are. I think it's ultimately identity has become much more important, and I'm not being biased in saying that, of course, but I think it has moved from being a very tactical project looking at, I don't know, Active Directory or something very small within the enterprise to being much, much bigger and broader. And it has much more strategic powers now around security, productivity, privacy, revenue generation, cloud services, AI as well. We haven't mentioned AI just yet. So identity is moved from being sort of small in the side roads to being central to everything the modern organization does. And I think that is a real change. I think, will we still call it identity, or is it just cybersecurity with identity in there, or identity security? I'm not quite sure, but I certainly think it has more value. It has more different stakeholders are interested in how identity works, and it has more responsibilities, I think, which I think, yeah, definitely is entering a new more strategic era.
Yeah,
that's good. Another thing is, do you see that companies, they really today, right? They really understand the importance of the identity and access management space, and they do have clear ownership on who owns identity. Just share a little bit more colors, like in Latin America, where we are based. It's common to see that identity is still sitting around infrastructure team, or maybe as part of the security team. They don't have a clear ownership, or they, own accountability and responsibility. So how do you see that? Is that evolving?
It is. I think it is. It's in transition. I think it is an easy answer there. I think it has moved from being sort of more infrastructure and often the CIO looking at Active Directory, let's pick on that as an example, to being much more within the digital and the CISO security layer. I think each organization is different, but I do think it is just changing in its importance. So it does there are more stakeholders involved. And I think in some areas it may be the CIO. In some bigger organizations, it's the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer. And in others, it could well be in digital. So if you're building a customer identity platform or mobile applications, it may even sort of sit within marketing or within a digital setting as well. But it is in transition. It is moving. And I think the good thing is the senior people within the organization, that director, C-level, have much more interest in identity, and I think that has to be a good thing.
Yeah, the senior people, they are more connected to identity outcomes, I would say, nowadays, since they are more, they are getting the results in a practical way from the consumer side, from the business to business partnership, and I totally agree with you about this transition. Do you think that the identity is becoming the new operation system for enterprise security? It's totally different when we are assuming a new operation systems. This comes with new things, investments, also attacks, new guys trying to innovate on this new operation system. What is your perspective about this potential operation system for identity security?
I love that. I think the whole concept of that is brilliant. I think the industry is not quite there yet. It's still catching up to understanding how important identity is, but you hit a really important point there around the outcomes and how you measure the investment within identity. So it's trying to move away from the lower level OpenID Connect integrations, which are technical and that's perfect, that's important. But equally, if you're a C-level guy up here, you have no understanding of what that means. So it's like, how can you sort of elucidate, measure, communicate the identity effectiveness to all parts of the business, from sales, manufacturing, marketing, whatever sector you're working in? And I think soon as you get to that level, you will then have this operating model, if you like, where identity is really in the center and it has all of the mechanics and the levers to deliver revenue, customer experience, compliance, productivity, security. I think that becomes really, really powerful. We're not there. We're definitely heading in the right direction. But I think it will require a lot of non-technical changes around outcomes, measurements, communications, and so on before we can officially get there.
Yeah, I know that we already have problems enough to deal with, but I got a question. What is your statement or your thoughts on the differentiation between human accounts, no human accounts, or is instead to call no human accounts, it's better to call service accounts, because there are a lot of noise around the terms. Who has the best definition of no human accounts, agents accounts? So what is your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, this has been going on for a number of years, and I think the sort of machine identity idea came out of Gartner 5 or 6 years ago, and then we had this non-human identity thing appear maybe 3 years ago. I personally try and avoid it. If I ever do a workshop or whiteboard things, I sort of have 3 big buckets essentially. One is identity for people. Okay. One is identity for software, and another is identity for hardware. And underneath those buckets, you can then start to say, well, machines, services, agents, that's software related. And then staff, customers, consumers, business partners, they're all people. So they can go in the people bucket. It's a little bit, again, keeping it simple, really, trying to keep it simple. I think there was constant confusion around definitions and all of the who says what, and I think the vendors, they like to try and own certain words and certain definitions, and they argue against each other. It's, in honesty, it is very frustrating because it doesn't add anything to the buy side or to the engineering world or to the architecture world if everyone's sort of arguing about the words there. It's a little bit frustrating, I think.
Yeah, and related to Diego's question, because today we see things like knowing human identity, that's very hyped and in the center of every discussion. So do you see identity topics that are sometimes underrated and people do not pay attention, but they should really start talking more about that? Is there any identity topic that you think it's flying under the radar?
I think there's a few things which are still struggling to get the attention. You covered a little bit of this earlier, though, with Diego's comment about outcomes and measurements. We don't really measure identity very well. We don't really have good success criteria around the coverage or the effectiveness or the performance of basic things around maybe MFA or authorization, registration and sign up sort of data. We're quite bad at that, I think, as an industry. And I think taking those lower level metrics and then converting them into a higher level thing, I think we're quite bad at. I think we're quite bad at the whole sort of continuous runtime concepts of identity as well. I think we often have traditionally got quite stuck in, well, we'll deploy multi-factor authentication and then we're secure, we're done. We'll walk away from this. We'll come back in 3 years' time and recheck everything. But clearly now we're seeing identity attacks at the session level, privilege escalation, privilege authorization, malicious behaviors. So we're sort of seeing a lot of, I guess, those runtime and downstream issues within identity, which I don't think we're particularly good as an industry to sort of think about continuous authorization, continuous session management, continuous evaluation, which it's very much zero trust-esque, really. So I think there are some technical things we are still slowly starting to pick up upon around behavior monitoring and behavior management and looking at what the identities are actually doing, not what they should be doing. There's some subtle differences there, I guess. And there's one or two areas there which I think we're still trying to catch up with.
Thank you. Yeah. Diego, do you want to ask that one?
Yeah, no, I was wondering, I was talking to myself about it. You mentioned that you are supposed to help the C-level to better understand the identity outcomes, to translate the identity technical protocols, architectures, frameworks. But the market keep going, launching new terms all the time. And the most recent term that I just, we got familiar with is the IVIP one. So we are dealing with so many new terms, and now we got a new one. What are your thoughts about it, this new one, and how you can help the C-level to understand, to get the value of this new, term?
Yeah, it's another frustrating one, because you are spending your time having to explain things all the time. And I think that instantly, that term, not picking on Gartner, but that is another Gartner generated term. So you're spending 10, 15 minutes explaining identity, visibility, and intelligence platform. And that's there's a lot to unpack in that. There's lots of different interpretations of this. The way again, trying to simplify this for the audience I sort of work with, I sort of do things in two camps. One is identity data, and one is identity runtime. So the identity data is very much what IVIP is, I guess, trying to tackle, which is things like permissions, policies, identity profiles, the attributes, the entitlements, all of the data that we need to essentially build and create our identity ecosystem. And we have to have identity governance around that. We have to have security posture management. We have to have continual compliance around the life cycle of those identities. And then the second part is, once we've cleaned the identity data, how are they being used? So authentication, sessions, behavior, policy-based access control, adaptive access, all of the sort of real-time execution, if you like, of identity. And I guess those two building blocks are really, again, back to the real problems. Those are the two areas we need to consider. I think IVIP tries to straddle both of those concepts in quite a complicated way, in honesty. So I think it's a good term to raise awareness and get people talking, but I think it introduces yet more confusion for the buy side, because they don't quite know which category that should really cater for.
And just to let clear to everyone that is listening to this episode, I'm not complaining, or I'm not against the new term at all. I'm just saying that we got a new term to create awareness, like you said, Simon. And also it is important to define terms and what is the responsibility inside of our framework that it's filled, right? But my point is, we needed to, as a technical guys, as a identity practitioners, we needed to learn not only how to build frameworks, but also how to translate that framework in a way that everyone can extract, the benefit, the value, the most important outcomes, right? That's our main responsibility, I would say. It's like if you decided to become a physician, you're gonna learn a lot of different terms. If you decided to become like a good, technician for whatever, you're gonna learn a new vocabulary. But I also needed to translate, because most of the people, they don't know, or even they don't care about the small details of the terms. They're looking for the benefits. They're looking for the
business.
Yeah. So just to be clear, and also to defend myself about it.
But you're absolutely spot on. I think the term, any term, it has real value if we all use the same term. If we're us three are having a conversation and we understand the term, brilliant. We have a framework, we have a language, we have a way of thinking. The problem, of course, is if we interpret those terms differently, and that's where we have the conflict and the issues and the disagreements. And again, we're back to the solution, not what's the real problem we're trying to fix. I think they get disconnected a little bit too easily.
Yeah. Please, Rodrigo.
Yeah, no, I want to shift the gears a little bit and go and talk a little bit about your book, like the Identity in 2035. And so if we have the same conversation like in 2035, in 10 years, so what do you think will surprise us most about the identity industry? How do you think that's going to look like?
It's one of these guys. Yeah. I guess in 10 years, I don't think we'll be reading books. We all Kindle and digital, first of all. Or maybe it's just you sort of, I don't know, you have like an earpiece which just gives you the information, perhaps. And it's interesting. So obviously, I wrote this a year or two back, and AI was clearly, it was clearly a thing 18 months ago. Well, I think even my expectations and all of our expectations of the speed of AI is being unprecedented. So I guess that is both an opportunity and I guess a bit of a concern as well, because it is moving so quickly. But I guess back to your question, sort of 9 years from now, I'm hoping identity is going to be this operating system. It is going to be central to how the modern enterprise delivers its online services in an adaptive way, in a privacy-preserving way. We're going to have some real challenges, I think, in the next decade around AI adoption and security, things like disinformation. We're going to have post-quantum stuff to deal with, fake news. All of these have identity in them somewhere. And I think we're definitely entering a new era of the importance of identity. I think how we communicate and talk about it. And I do wonder, maybe 10 years from now, we don't talk about identity anymore. It's just part of that sort of cyber or information security sort of language and landscape. And we may see things like network security and endpoint security all start to fade away. And we have identities, we have data, and those are the two real pillars of our information security world. So I don't have the answer to that, but I definitely do think it's things are moving incredibly quickly, which I think is definitely an opportunity to really sort of change how we think about technology, information, data, and the benefits that can bring. And identity is so critical to doing so. And I think just one final point, it isn't just about the enterprise, it's about all of society around travel, borders, media consumption, how we interact with our government services. There's a whole host of things where identity is the real key part of that, around privacy and around our own sort of biometric integration to the digital world. I think identity is critical.
Identity is critical, and the way that we are dealing with identity, I agree with you. Maybe we will not talk about identity anymore in 10 years from now. but when we talk about it 10 years from now, okay, let's think about a framework. Do you think that most of the frameworks that we are building right now for the next 10 years or so, do you think that the future belongs to identity platforms or identity ecosystems? Which direction the framework is moving to? Which both directions, one direction?
It's a really good question, that actually, and it varies as well. It's quite cyclical, this sort of pattern. It's a little bit like fashion and pop music, and it keeps sort of altering and changing. And I think if we sort of zoom out a little bit, we need to sort of think about what are the capabilities we need for the modern identity world, and you are going to need to have this end-to-end set of capabilities, from verification, proofing, storage, usage, authorization, intent, behavior. You're going to need all of these capabilities, and we need to do this for people, for software, for hardware, all of these different identity types. So you sort of end up with a big matrix of things that you need to achieve. Can you do that with one big platform? I would say unlikely. In certain ecosystems, a small organization or a small set of use cases, absolutely, it could be simpler, it could be cheaper, operationally more effective. But I think in general, we're starting to see the ability to stitch together different identity components, different security components, where identity, let's pick authorization as an example. Authorization, it isn't just a small entity, it has multi-pronged integrations to data, to risk, to threat intelligence, to natural language processing platforms. So it always requires an ecosystem in the village. I think the more integrations you have in a modular way, composable way, which you can measure and you can understand the outcomes for, I think will always be more adaptive and more, I guess, strategic, because there's a lot of unknown things which may happen in the next decade around competitive pressures, geopolitical pressures, compliance changes. So you need to have a very adaptive identity world. And I think having an ecosystem is a very, very powerful way of trying to achieve that, I think.
Okay, thank you. And another thing that we always want to give our audience a sense of how they can get on board on the identity, right? So if you are someone coming out of college, how do you can start working with identity? So what is your advice for people to start on this area, what they need to learn?
Yeah, that's a super question, actually. I think it has definitely changed this last decade or so. I think, first of all, get started, irregardless of your background. I think 10 years ago, it was very much technical, and maybe you come from a sort of network security world, and you did your Cisco exams and the OSI model and this sort, which is great, nothing wrong with this. And I think now it's less about maybe the lower level technical aspects, but having that much more broader focus around technology. So data, networks, information security at a high level. But equally, you don't need to be just a technical person. You could be a project manager. You could be a business analyst. You could be an application owner. You could be a line manager, really, who's not technical, but you are integrating with chat op systems to help manage identity systems. So I think absolutely a good broad technical background is great, but I don't think you have to be a coder or a network security guy these days. You can enter identity from a whole host of different ways, and be ambitious about this as well. Learn from a whole host of different sources in different areas, and you don't have to be technical anymore, which I think is a really good starting point. You can come at it from a whole host of different ways, but a good grounding in technology, data, information security at a high level, I think that they're all really good entry points, I think.
Yeah, we had another episode with a person in Brazil here that we talking about a different skill that identity is looking for right now. Like you said, you don't need it to be only the technical guy in identity. You don't need it to came and okay, I'm gonna be a developer, try to create a new customer identity experience. Another thing that identity field is looking for right now is people that understand the risk, how to measure the risk. Okay, technical background, it's good to have, but beside the technical background, you need to understand, and also back to our point, help to connect the C-level to a techie stack, right? So when I talk about these new skills and new ability, I see that now in 2026, every company, after years, of course, work on that, has a cloud strategy. Now they are building the AI strategy, but I don't see anyone working on the identity strategy to follow the cloud and the AI. What is your perspective? Does someone should looking identity for, okay, I will join the company to work in identity only to be the technical or to help the company to connect the identity strategy with my risky knowledge, my risky background. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a very correct observation. I think we do have these sort of separate pillars around strategy. I think identity, it is getting there. I mean, some organizations do, and I think we did a poll. We did a poll on the Cyberhut on the LinkedIn thing maybe 2 or 3 years ago, asking, do we need to have a chief identity officer? A sort of a C-level thing, and everyone decides probably not. But what we do need to have is identity in those C-level conversations. Again, not necessarily about OAuth 2 or the technical aspects, but around where is identity helping or hindering? Is it improving our productivity? Is it helping us to sell more and do more? So I do think, again, back to the problem statements, we need to really articulate where the core identity problems are in the business. I think that then helps. You end up with sort of a distributed identity strategy, if that makes sense. So you may have a bit that helps the compliance team. You may have a bit which helps customer onboarding. You may then have a bit which helps security and strong authentication. So it's almost like a distributed aspect. But I think, I do agree. I think many organizations are still struggling to have an overarching North Star or a key identity direction. I think it will come, but not through effort. I think it will eventually come through maturity, I guess.
Yeah. Eventually they will come through, and they will have to learn how to deal with the new AI challenge, right? We don't know yet the real impact of the AI right now.
Yes.
Like you said, some companies, they are mature enough to deal with complex problem, but maybe those companies represent less than 1% of the entire population of companies. All the 99% of the rest of the companies, they will learn from their harder
the hard
situation.
Way.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think AI is at least amplifying the power of identity, because it's amplifying where the weaknesses may exist. So I think that at least may get some more attention on the identity world.
Totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think regulations will also impact how we see the evolution of identity, specifically around AI, right? Because today, to be fair, there is almost no regulation. And how do you see that? Do you think that will evolve and we start having more regulation around the usage of AI, and that will, of course, impact?
I think so. I think the regulations always takes a bit of a catch up around the technology in general. So it's always seen as the sort of inhibitor to technology adoption. You can't do certain things. Clearly, it will have to respond to AI, because AI is everywhere, and it's really making fast changes around speed, around vulnerabilities, around response. So I think regulation will undoubtedly change around AI. I think it will happen very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Simon, I want to thank you. We're closing to our end. Do you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to share with our audience?
Just a pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you for having me on. It's been absolutely wonderful chat, and I think hopefully the audience will take some things away there. But just the identity is more important than it ever was, and I think as long as we communicate and measure it effectively, I think we'll be onto a good trajectory for the next 10 years.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to highlight something that you say, that keep it simple. Keep it easy. I think that's one of the very strong message for everybody, that it's not only work with identity, but security and technology overall. So do not overcomplicate. Try to keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and all your knowledge. I hope we can talk with you in the future again. That's
perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being on. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, and have a really amazing weekend.
Yeah, have a really good weekend. Yeah.
You too, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Pessoal, muito obrigado. Então a gente encerra aqui mais um episódio com o Simon e até a próxima sessão. Valeu.
Obrigado. Valeu, Diego.